How would a progressive Democrat and a MAGA Republican do if they faced off in 28? This poll from Emerson might give us a snapshot answer. We'll take a look at it at the end. But first, we've got a couple of polls. We're going to start here in New York. Here's Siena College. And there's a lot of data here. I'll try to highlight what's notable. First of all, we've got a new entry on the GOP side. We've got Bruce Blakeman, Nassau County Executive. Could be a big battle between him and Elise Stefanik for the nomination to take on Kathy Hochul. Republicans have high hopes of capturing this state. Dems think it's never going to happen. And at this early point, it looks like it's going to be more of the latter. Against Elise Stefanik, Hochul leads 49-30, 20% undecided. Against Blakeman, it's Hochul at 50, Blakeman 25, 21 undecided. I would guess most of those undecideds would lean toward the Republican side, but with Hochul already right at about 50%, it looks like a pretty big uphill climb here to take her down. Some other data points are 65% to 27 support universal free childcare for infants through pre-K. They would be paid for by increased taxes on those earning more than $1 million. 50% of New York City voters support eliminating bus fares, also paid for by increasing those taxes. How about Zoran Mamdani, incoming mayor? Looks like he's on a honeymoon. His favorables are at 46-31. That's up from 40-40 last month. In New York City, it's going to be higher. So everybody's going to be watching Mamdani over the next 3 to 6 months. Now, as for the Republicans against Hochul, you've got a couple of differences between Blakeman and Stefanik. First, he's from a higher population area. He's from Long Island. Stefanik from upstate, so much less people. But Stefanik, much younger than Blakeman. He's already into his early 70s. And Blakeman might be a little bit more moderate on abortion. Maybe that helps him in a general. Could be a challenge in a primary. So what about Hochul's favorability? She's at 43-41, so very slightly above water there. But her job approval rating is better. It's at 52-39. So a bit of a gap there between her approval and her favorability. But Stefanik is underwater 22-33. Blakeman is at 13-17. So a bit of a problem there with name ID, especially for Blakeman. Now the interesting thing about this race is it's not Hochul who's unopposed for her nomination. She is being challenged by her own lieutenant governor, Antonio Delgado. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but she's not really breaking a sweat over it in the polls. She's up 56-13. And at the GOP side, Stefanik leads Blakeman 48-17. Republicans got kind of close last time with Lee Zeldin to beating Hochul, but that was when Biden was in office, and more of the issues seemed to favor the party out of power at the time of the White House. Now it might even be a bigger challenge for this state to go red. Then we've got a few more specific issues on who would be better. Not a whole lot jumps out here, but keeping New Yorkers safe, actually Hochul is better than Stefanik on that issue. And with healthcare, Hochul clearly above water, Stefanik clearly below water. There's a little bit more down here, but we can't cover all of it. This race to me seems like Hochul tepidly popular at best. There's an opening for the Republicans, however, with Trump in the White House and with a non-strong candidate for the GOP. It would take some serious missteps by Hochul and a strong campaign for either Stefanik or Blakeman or whoever it is to actually be able to win that race. It's not impossible, it's just unlikely, but we'll see what happens as we get more into the spring and then next summer. Now let's go on to this poll here in Florida. This says new poll shows Jay Collins beating Byron Donalds if Ron DeSantis endorses in governor's race. Now this is a Republican primary poll, and it does seem like it's backed by Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. Right now, Byron Donalds is the clear frontrunner, but if Collins makes a run, or some of these other candidates have already gotten into the race, there could end up being a big primary here, but as of right now, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Now, this is kind of a weird poll, and again, just with GOP primary voters, 86% say the state is headed in the right direction. Trump's approval rating is at 87, DeSantis is at 92. Byron Donalds' name ID is at 70, Jay Collins is at 48, Donald's support is at 40%, Collins is at 13, James Fishback is at just 2%. And then we've got Renner here at 1%, 38% undecided. Apparently there's been an ad campaign here in support of Jay Collins. And once that happens, I guess his support goes up, at least according to this poll. Down here it says, after just 4 positive messages regarding Jay Collins' background as a Green Beret and his conservative positions, Collins turns a 19-46% deficit into a 40-30% lead over Donalds. Then it says no negative messages were tested against Donalds. So if that's actually true, that could be a big deal. Now, Collins was recently appointed lieutenant governor, and Byron Donalds has already been running for governor for a while now. He already has the Trump endorsement. For about the past year, it seemed like he was going to be the easy choice to be the nominee, but there was some news recently where DeSantis kind of came out not really in favor of Donalds anymore. Might have called him too woke on certain issues. That was weird to read that, but I think Donalds might just be too far ahead at this point. He's already got everything behind him, and unless DeSantis' wife, Casey, gets into the race, I don't know how much I actually believe this poll. I'm sure Donalds would put out a poll that he sponsors himself, and he'd show that he has a commanding lead. We've seen him leading for months now, so to see this kind of stuff come out is a little weird. But because Collins is the lieutenant governor under DeSantis, it says if Jay Collins were to finally launch his campaign and have the complete and total endorsement from Ron DeSantis, then Collins would be ahead of Donalds, 50-24. So yeah, it seems like there's soft support here for Donalds. And in theory, a governor would probably support his own lieutenant governor. But at the same time, we just saw in New York, we've got Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado challenging his own governor, Kathy Hochul. Anything could happen. Sometimes it gets really crazy here in politics. I would have a hard time betting against Donalds here, but you never know what could happen. As soon as we get into the new year, then I'm going to say we're actually in early primary season. So let's move back here to Emerson and take a look at this poll. First, they do some approval ratings. Here's Trump at the end of the year. He's at 41 approve, 50 disapprove. That's the worst since he got back into office. Headed into a midterm year, he's definitely going to want to improve on these numbers a little bit. We've got a sample size here of 1,000 voters. But what about this hypothetical 28 matchup? We've got a progressive and a moderate Democrat against a MAGA and moderate Republican. In the head-to-head between the progressive Democrat and MAGA Republican, it's basically a coin flip. 43 for the Democrat, 42 for the Republican, 16% undecided. I think that's the most interesting one here, but what about a progressive Democrat versus a regular moderate Republican? Then the moderate Republican has a commanding lead, 48-36. Another 16% undecided. How about a moderate Democrat versus a MAGA Republican? Then the Democrat has a clear lead, 47-38, 14% undecided. And how about a couple of moderates? Well, there the Republican has a bit of an edge, 44-39, 17 undecided. So I don't think this means a ton, but it's always interesting to see these hypothetical ideological matchups. According to this, it looks like the moderates stand a better chance. That seems to be the dilemma now on which direction both sides are going to go. Next, they give Trump grades on a few issues. His best one here is immigration. 37% give him an A, 36% give him an F. And on healthcare, just 14% give him an A, 38% give him an F. I think this mostly reflects what a lot of working class voters are thinking. There's always exceptions, but they're not going to care too much if Trump cracks down a ton on immigration. But when it comes to healthcare, they don't think he's delivering the goods at all. And then we've got some favorability ratings. The highest one on here is actually J.D. Vance. He's at 46-41. The lowest on here is Marjorie Taylor Greene, 17% favorable, 50% unfavorable. She never had support from the Dems, and now she's pretty much lost most of it from the Republicans. So she doesn't have anywhere to turn with just 17% approval. And there's a little bit more on some issues down below, but the last thing I'm going to point out here is the generic congressional ballot. Dems are ahead by 2, 44-42, 15% undecided, but independents break for the Dems, 40-32, 28 undecided. To me, that says Dems are clearly favored to take back the House next year, but it's not going to be overwhelming. Republicans are still in the conversation. So that's it. That's what we've got here from Emerson, as well as some polls in New York and Florida. So let me know in the comments. Who's the best Republican to take on Hochul? Is it Stefanik or is it Blakeman? And what about in Florida? Is it going to be Byron Donalds or is somebody else going to emerge as a frontrunner? And what do you think about anything here on Emerson? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.